Okay, hello and good morning. Let's take a look here. We're finishing up the third marking period of what has been nothing short of a pretty unusual year. Anyhow, let's take a look at this one here. This is a review, adding and subtracting fractions, and although it seems like a simple task, it's a very important thing, so you need to learn it. There's a couple of ways you can do this. The way that I like to do this is I just borrow. I borrow from the 7 and make it a 6. And since I borrowed 1 from the 7, I can make it into anything I want. I could do 5 over 5. I could do 100 over 100. But here my denominator is 4, so I'm going to make it 4 over 4. 4 over 4 is 1, plus that 6 makes 7. So this is still 7. Okay? Now here you're subtracting. And that's cool, you can do that. 4 minus 1 is 3, so your answer is 6 and 3 over 4. That's the way I do it. Now the way I taught you was to put a 1 under here and then find your least common denominator. So you would multiply this by 4. So you would get 28 over 4 minus 1 over 4 equals 27 over 4, which equals 6 and 3/4. And you might say, well, how is that so? Well, 4 goes into 27. 4 times 5 is 20. So 4 times 6 is 24. So put 24, subtract, your remainder is 3. So you put your remainder over your divisor, and you get the same thing that I had there. So I don't care which way you do it. You probably should understand both ways. But the way I taught you was to put a 1 and then find the least common denominator. And that way works. You just have to change it to a mixed number. Sometimes they do take improper fractions as long as they're reduced. This one right here, you're adding. And remember how I told you to find the least common denominator. Take your denominators and then take the biggest one, which is 5. Does 3 go into 5? Nope, double it. Does 3 go into 10? Nope, triple it. Does 3 go into 15? Yes. That's your least common denominator. So what you're going to do is multiply 5 times 3 is going to give you 15, which is your least common denominator. But you have to multiply the top by the same number. This one, 3 times 5, is going to give you 15. So you got to multiply this one by 5. So you get 12 over 15 plus 5 over 15 equals 17 over 15. And again, as long as it's reduced, they will accept that. Okay, so let's move on. The next one here is a mixed number. And there's a lot of different ways you can probably do this one, but the way I would do it is I would just change it to an improper fraction. So 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1. So put 19 over 6. 1 times 10 is 10 plus 1 makes 11 over 10. Now find your least common denominator. You have 6 and 10. Take the biggest one, which is 10, and keep going until you find what they both go into. I think it's going to be 60. 6 goes into 60 and so does 10. So I'm going to multiply this one by 10 to get 60. And I'm going to multiply this one by 6. So I'm going to have 190 over 60 minus 66 over 60. And when I do that, I get my calculator out. And by the way, some of you are using my calculators, but you're not putting them back, okay? And so if you do use one, make sure you put it back up front, okay? And it looks like 1 is not showing up from yesterday. And I'm still missing some. So I have 190 minus 66. I'm going to borrow. That becomes 4, 6, 7, 8, 2. I get 124 over 60, and then you got to reduce it by 2 because I know 2 goes into it. Half of 12 is 6. Half of 4 is 2. Half of 60 is 30. We can reduce it again. Half of 6 is 3. Half of 2 is 1. Half of 30 is 15. And I'm going to leave it like that. And that is how you work it. Today's worksheet, I want you to do the odd. Only the odd today. Make sure you show work. The answers are at the bottom. Make sure you try your best on this because you really need to know how to do fractions. And again, today is the odd on both sides. All right, let's go on. Let's talk about geometry now. All right, well, geometry, you were taught like 7 formulas for circles, okay? And we could go over all 7 of them since you have your test this weekend, supposedly from today till Sunday, okay? I'm going to try to upload it today. Well, let's take a look here. One of the rules says the segments where the center, where it hits right here is not the center of the circle, you multiply these two. So you're going to say 3 times 4 is equal to x times 7. And then you just divide by 7 and you get your answer. So your answer is going to be 12 over 7. That's it. You just need to know the formula. Okay? This one right here is segments and it's outside. So remember it's the outside piece times the whole thing. So it's 4 times the whole thing, which is 9. 4 plus 5, you add that up, equals the outside piece, which is x, times the whole thing, which is x plus 3. Now here you're going to go ahead and get 36 right here is equal to x squared and then 3x. Now this one you got to get equal to 0 and you're going to have to use something called the quadratic equation. So on the EOC you will have some like this. So remember x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Copy that down. This is your a, this is your b, and this is your c, and you have to plug it in. And now I'm not going to do that for you. You can go online on YouTube and type in quadratic equation. But this one right here again is the outside times the whole thing equals the outside times the whole thing. Make sure you know those 7 formulas. Let's talk about today's work. Well, we're not quite done yet. It says draw a box. Well, to draw a box, the way I taught you was you draw a rectangle, you overlap it, and then you connect the vertices like this. Make sure you're taking notes, okay, if making corrections and processing it in your head. Draw a net. A net is where you open this thing up. So you have the bottom, which looks like this. You have the left side, you have the right side, you have the front of the box, you have the top of the box, and then you have the back side of the box. And it should be 6. And that's what it is. And that's called a net. So on the EOC, if they say draw a net, we're not talking about a hairnet that the ladies wear in the cafeterias. We're talking about a net. So look here, the last one. They want you to figure out surface area and volume. Well, the length is 2, the width is 5, and height is 7. Volume of a rectangular prism or a box is going to be length times width times height. So it's just 2 times 5 times 7. This is 10 times 7 gives you 70 cubic inches. It's volume, so it's of the 3rd degree. Surface area is a little bit harder. You take all 3 numbers, 2, 5, and 7, and what you do is you take the first 2, you multiply, and then you multiply by 2 because you have 2 of those pieces. You take the second 2, 5 times 7, and you multiply by 2 because you have 2 of those. And then you take the first and the last, 2 times 7, and then you multiply by 2, and you get your answer. So let's just see if we can do it. This is 10 times 2 is 20 plus. This is 35 times 2, I guess is 70. And this is 14 times 2, which is 28. You add all of that up, you get 90. It looks like 118 square inches because it's surface area. And you might say, well, why are you multiplying by 2? Because the front is the same as the back. You have 2 of them. So if you do 1, you have to multiply by 2. Okay? Now it gets a little harder like if the box is open. If the box is open, then you wouldn't multiply one of these by 2. So you'd have to figure that out. We're going to go on though, and today we're talking about cylinders, okay, like cans. Like if you take this can right here, this is a cylinder. You have two circles and then a sleeve that goes around here. Maybe like the sleeve of your shirt. So let's take a look here. I want you to draw a circle and then draw another circle and then connect it, and you have a cylinder. Now let's make the radius 5 and let's make the height 7. Okay, copy that down. And then volume of anything is big B times H. Big B is the bottom. The bottom is a circle. So you got to do the area of a circle, which is pi radius squared times the height. That will give you volume. So pi is 3.14. The radius squared is going to be 5 times 5, and the height is 7. You get your calculator out, and bam, you're done. That gives you the volume of the whole cylinder. Volume's easy. Circle times the height. Bottom times the height. Surface area, on the other hand, is a little different. Now watch and listen. So draw a circle, draw another circle, and connect it. Now here's what we're going to do, and here's what I need you to understand. To do surface area, you're going to have a rectangle plus two circles. The circle at the top and the circle at the bottom. And believe it or not, this is a rectangle. And you might say, well, how is that so? Well, good question. Let's take a look at this cylinder right here. And I just took a pass and I made it into a cylinder. Well, if you look at this cylinder, you have a circle here and you have another circle here. And if you open this up, you have a rectangle. So that's what we have here. And this is called a net. Now, here's what you need to know. So surface area is going to be two circles. So 2 times pi radius squared. Two of these. 1, 2. Plus the rectangle. The rectangle is going to be the height. The height is 7, let's say. Okay. And then you need this piece. So it's going to be 7 times whatever this piece is. Now to get that piece, that's the piece that wraps around the circle, and that's called circumference. So put pi times diameter. It's a little tricky, but there it is, okay? And there's your formula. So you're going to take 2 times pi times the radius squared. We'll use the radius of 5. So 5 times 5 plus 7 times pi times the diameter. The diameter is 2 wings, or 2 of those, which gives you 10. You multiply this, you multiply this, you add it up, and that gives you surface area. And that's how you do it. All right, we'll do one together in class on the worksheet, and I'll see you in class. Today we're doing the odd only. So on this worksheet, you're going to be doing the odd. Remember, volume is easy. Surface area is always a little more complicated. The answers are at the bottom. Have a good day. I'll see you in class. Make sure you study, okay? We're trying to get you ready for the EOC, and all of this is on there. Good luck.